Hello everyone, it's Michaela with Birch's Botanicals, and I thought I would take you for a winter tour of our beautiful snow-covered homestead. So just on the left here is our little workshop, which is going to be replaced with a mushroom growing facility. We would use the original structure, but they didn't actually do anything to preserve the plywood that they used, so it's now full of mold and damp, so not a good space to be growing mushrooms in when it's like that. So this little backyard area I have plans to turn into a bit of a food forest area. So there is a very lovely lady who grows a bunch of different trees and whatnot. So I bought a few from her, but she was also kind enough to just give me a whole whackload of saplings. There is heartnut, English walnut, and black walnut, and I just planted them kind of sporadically throughout the area, and I'm just going to see what actually takes, because we're going to get a very cold winter. There's deer in the area, so I'm not sure how many of them, if any of them, are going to survive, but I figure if I throw enough in there, some of them eventually are going to take. So I'm not walking through it today, but nestled to the left in the trees is a little fire pit area, and I'm really looking forward to being able to use that in the summertime. We do have another one kind of closer to the house, but this one is just kind of nestled in a grove of trees, and it's a really beautiful little spot. So the property does extend quite a bit beyond the fence line here. It's maybe half or just under half of the property that's fenced. So because there is power lines running through the property, we get the hydro people coming through and taking down all the trees. So that gives us a wonderful source of firewood. Now this area here is eventually going to be a nice big berry patch, and it's going to extend most of the way down towards the front of the property, just kind of ending where the house is. But so there's a burn pile here that needs to be taken care of and some mature trees. But this whole section in here is pretty much just all thimbleberry, and there's also, I believe, some blackberry growing in here as well. So that shows me that berries are going to do really, really well in this area. And so I am going to be leaving a good chunk of the thimbleberries and what's already growing, but I'm just going to be kind of putting in a bunch of elderberry, some cloudberry, mulberry. I might even move the blueberry plants that are in the raised beds in the garden back here as well. So I have a bunch of different fruit tree seeds to start, so a lot of that is going to end up going back here. So we're coming up on what used to be the horse paddock area, and there there's the little barn off to the side there. And what we did was we actually took the tack room and turned it into the new chicken coop. So now the chickens have a nice enclosed area to keep them away from the dogs, and also a nice covered portion for when the weather gets bad, but it keeps them away from the dogs and still gives them a lot of room to roam, and I can let them into the garden as well once the plants are established, so I can use them for pest control. So this is the upper portion of the horse paddocks, and this is going to be tilled in the spring. Speaking of the dogs, here comes Opal, and there is Celine. They didn't catch me coming outside, so they're very excited to see me. So as I said, all of this is going to be tilled just one time in the spring. And then I'm going to be moving into a more no-dig / permaculture style of growing. And this is where all of the CSA boxes and everything, that's going to be all grown in here, all of my herbs. There'll be a little bit of personal stuff as well, but most of that will end up being in the garden, in the raised beds. So this is the second half of the horse paddock, and honestly right now don't have a lot of plans for it. I will probably put some berries in with the little thimbleberries that are already there on the slope underneath the apple trees. And over here, where yet again more thimbleberries are growing, this is actually going to be the little grape orchard. So there's actually a couple apple trees at the end there. So a lot of that's going to end up getting cleared out and planted to grapes. So this is the raised bed garden in here, and it's a little too snowy. I'd need to dig a path to be able to get in there right now. But it's about 15 raised beds, and I'm going to be experimenting with putting up some archways in there and also some cold frames for next winter. I didn't have time to do it this year, but that's okay. So that was the old chicken coop in there, and there's quite a few cherry trees actually behind that fencing. There's some other fruit trees on the right hand side here. I believe it's a pear, and the other two aren't labeled. This is a couple of wild apple trees that really need a pruning. Actually, all of the apple trees on the property need a bit of TLC. And so finally we have the goats. We started with 2 females that came with the property, and then also found a male Nigerian dwarf on Facebook. So this is Brunost here. And we have Bree hanging out inside. And then little Diablo there. So he's about 5 months old now. That's actually the most that he's ever let me come near him, so he's still getting used to me. He is not like Bree here, who just absolutely loves people, loves the head scratches. She would be pet and cuddled pretty much all day if she could. So, despite their nearly full-grown size, our 2 Pyrenees girls are actually still puppies. They're not even a year old yet, and they're not meant to live full-time unsupervised with animals until they're about 2 years old. So, essentially until they are past that teenager phase. because you kind of need to make sure that you train them to not have any bad habits. But we do let them in with the goats, and I like to leave them there for at least an hour, kind of towards the end of the day, right before dinner time. I like to put them in the pen with the goats, and then they come out for dinner time. So it's a really good way to get them used to each other. And it is a bit difficult to introduce kind of new livestock guardian dogs that are essentially relatively untrained to adult animals that have never really been around a livestock guardian dog before. But I have to say it's actually going pretty well so far, and they do enjoy each other's company. So that is it, guys. That is the wintertime snowy farm tour, and I will see you in the next video.